Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at getting started drawing using PyProcessing. And I've created a file in the pickup folder called Basic Drawing, which you can use to get started. So take a look at that file. It's just it's got a few things in it, and oh, I didn't mean to save it like that. So I'll just take these things out and save it. So just looking at it from the top down, we have a line where we're importing the functions for the processing graphics library, then calling a function called size with the numbers 400, 400. This is going to create a window, a new window that's going to be 400 pixels wide and 400 pixels tall. And then I'll skip this for a moment, but down at the bottom we have this function that we're calling called run, and of course with the parenthesis as well. And if you don't call this, then your window's not going to draw. So I'll just hit the run on the on PyScripter, and we'll see a new window open. And what we'll see is a small rectangle. It took a little longer than normal, but there you go. So there's a 400 pixel wide, 400 pixel tall window with this small rectangle being drawn. So we'll look at a few functions. As long as you've got that working, you can watch the rest of the video and try some of these functions. If you didn't install PyProcessing and Piglet, which it requires, then you'll need to go back to that video and take care of that. So just look for a moment at Processing website. Processing is the graph. Python itself is actually a Java project. So there's differences on the website. It's a resource. It has a lot of great tutorials. It has a lot of examples that you could look at and probably still understand most of the code. And it has the reference manual. So we're going to make use of it, and we'll see how it goes. If we can, we'll kind of build up our own Python examples and Python reference through the process. So I would just like to point out two tutorials that you should take a look at. First, the coordinate system and shapes under tutorials, and color as well. And I'll just look at one thing under the coordinate system. You see these two examples of coordinates that are being shown here. The left example is what you're typically used to in math class when you're plotting functions and drawing things on graphs. Your origin is in the middle of the page, and is the example we will be working with when we're drawing things in processing. The origin is going to be in the upper left corner, and you'll notice that y, as it gets larger and larger positive numbers, it's actually moving down the page. So, okay, so the reference manual, as I mentioned, is really great. We'll be looking at 2D primitives just very quickly, but I'm going to encourage that you come back and look at these on the processing website, and color as well. And the one that I have in the code is this rectangle function, and it shows you a few examples of how to use it. I'm not sure actually if the rounded corner works on our Python version or not, but it shows you examples of the code. It explains how they work, and explains what the different parameters are down here. So the x and y coordinates are the a and b parameters, and c and d are the width and the height. So when we look at our code, we're expecting to draw a rectangle that's at x 10, y equals 10, and that's the upper left corner, and then its width is 10 and its height is 10. So I'll just make the width 100 and the height of it 50. So we'll see a wider, taller triangle, or rectangle I should say, positioned at 10, 10. There's that upper left corner at 10, 10, very close to the top left corner of the window, and you can see that the rectangle now is a lot wider, and as well it's a bit taller. So if you look at those Other examples in the reference manual for processing, you'll see ellipse. This is how we can draw ellipses and circles. Now the ellipse coordinates are just a little different. The XY coordinates are the center of the ellipse. So you can see that I have a circle here. It's actually moved off of the top left corner. That center of the ellipse is at 1010 and it's 50 wide. So a good chunk of the circle is off of our window. I could try moving it over. We should see it move to the right and move down. And I'll just make it a little wider too, just to see if I can overlap it with the rectangle. So when we draw two shapes or multiple shapes in processing, we're drawing in the order they appear in the Python program. The rectangle was drawn first because it's appearing above the ellipse, and you can see that it's underneath that. The ellipse being drawn second is appearing above the rectangle. So as we draw things further and further down in the code, they're being drawn later and later on our window, and what is drawn last appears at the very top of our drawing. You can also notice that we have this kind of default gray color for our background, that we have a kind of default white color for the inside of our shapes, and we have a thin kind of black line as our kind of outline. So this thin outline is the stroke. The color inside is called the fill, and both of these can be changed. I, for instance, will change the fill of the ellipse. The fill is, and this is covered in the tutorials I mentioned. The fill is three numbers: a red color, amount of red between 0 and 255, green and blue. So this is all red. Basically, this fill is just red, and it appears it's been drawn. So the rectangle won't be affected, but the ellipse will be filled with this red color. Okay, so there's just a quick little start in processing, just to get you started with the idea of it and how to draw. We're not animating yet. These shapes will not move around the way we've constructed this file. But to get started, I would suggest you read the tutorials about coordinate system and shapes, as well as fill, and practice drawing these things on your screen.